Hey, what's up, Bafetu? It's your boy TUSK out to the D, yeah, Mr. Flow So Good, Matiba Totle, Mrs. Keep Up on my what. Y'all already know Bafetu back with you guys with yet another YouTube video. For those of y'all that are new to the channel, please do make sure to click that red button, do subscribe. Also making sure to click the bell next to that red button because that's what makes sure that YouTube does notify you every single time we upload a video. So today's a little bit weird. It's going to be a little bit weird because I'm not necessarily talking about stuff that I usually talk about. Generally, I talk about hip hop stuff. But y'all know, for those of y'all that have been a day one in this channel, that every now and then I sort of, kind of engage. Sometimes, dabble in other topics because when I started this YouTube channel, I started it basically as a way to talk to people about like stuff that I think about. And the stuff that I think about, ranges from a lot of topics. It ranges from hip hop to house music to politics and all these other things. And at first, I used to talk about that a lot till I decided to change the strategy a little bit in order to get my pathway into like industry stuff. But yeah, so y'all guys would already know that we're currently in this sort of lockdown situation because of I'm gonna call it Coco because this amazing platform that we're on doesn't necessarily like people talking about Coco. So I'm gonna call it Coco right now. You guys will already know that we're currently in Coco. Shout out to whoever's watching right now. It's late at night, so I think a lot of people are asleep, but I'm just gonna do it as a normal video, and then a lot of people are probably gonna get it in the morning and actually get to watch it then. Anyway, so I'm gonna talk about why specifically I think when it comes down to this issue, because I've been absorbing a lot of information in the past few weeks. Ever since this whole thing happened, I haven't been saying anything about it, just been absorbing a whole lot of information, reading about it, watching people talking about it. And I'm going to tell you guys why, because I'm finally at that point. Christians always talk about this thing where how Christians always say, like, there's something in my spirit. Like God is talking to me in my spirit. I'm going to talk to you guys about that because there's something that at this point is kind of bothering me and I want to get out. And you guys, are sort of like fam to me. Like I like talking to you guys and getting your perspective on stuff. But I'm going to tell you guys why I think this whole lockdown thing is not a strategy. And all these people that are constantly going out trying to make it seem like it's actually a strategy or it's actually a solution to the problem will end up with egg face on their heads. And why I think this DA guy, for those of you guys that don't know, that this DA guy, Steinheissen, has been basically, because I'm currently in SA right now, he's been basically, he's basically taking the ANC to court. And it's basically taking them to court on the basis of they some of the restrictions on the lockdown he thinks are wrong, and he basically wants them to end the lockdown. And you have a lot of people basically coming after him for that. And he did this interview with with SABC, and on the interview they asked him a question about which South Africans he's talking about and couldn't answer that question. Now everybody's just roasting him, and watching that hashtag is basically what's now just getting on my nerves, because I'm listening to these people, and bear in mind I could have just an economics bias. I am an economics major, but I will say that these people are actually just really getting to me at this point because guys, lockdown is not a strategy. Okay. And I'll tell you why it's not a strategy. I have like 3 points written here. Maybe it might be 4 more because sometimes I go off the cuff, but I've got 3 points here why lockdown is actually not a strategy when it comes down to this whole Coco situation. First of all, okay, we don't know when an actual cure for this thing is actually going to happen. Okay. And this is the biggest thing that bothers me, because a lot of people are talking like, listen, if you just close everything down and get everybody sitting at home and, just sitting at home doing nothing, you are actually solving the problem, right? They have this, and they have this condescending tone when they actually talk about it to say, oh, you guys that want the whole economy to open up, you guys want people to die, yada, 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 yada. And I look at it and I say, well, when you look at it in terms of what's been currently going on, and in general, just with any situation, you are going to lock down until when? You're going to keep people at home until when? Like, this is the major question. Because from even the most optimistic estimates that you're getting from a lot of these experts, it's going to be 2 or 3 years. And that's optimistic. Some of them are saying 5 years. And then some of them are actually saying it could be never. Okay. So you're going to lock down until when? Until forever and ever. Amen. You're going to tell people just stay home forever and ever. Amen. There's nothing. All of you just stay home, stay in the house forever and ever. Amen. Because we are saving lives. An economy can't wait for 1 year. Okay. And this whole idea of you're just going to lock people up, I think just is really not making sense, because again, I think the issue comes where there's a lot of people that think by saying that we shouldn't open up the economy, they're saving lives, right? As if this whole situation is like it's sort of a binary option. You're either saving lives or you're either killing people. And I think once people start thinking about it the other way around of, listen, either way, people are going to die. It just is what it is. Now, you want to take the path of least damage, if you would, right? Excuse me. Which path will result in the most minimum number of people actually dying? And I say that why? Because it is very likely, okay? It is very likely with this whole lockdown that if it's extended for too long, you've tanked your whole economy. And this is why worldwide, these people that are talking about lockdown, just keep locking down, don't think it's a good idea, because it is very likely if you lock down for an extended period of time, you're going to tank the economy and then eventually end up, that's why I say a lot of these guys are going to end up with egg on their faces, because eventually what might happen to you is, what will happen is you might lock down, destroy the economy, and then in the process, eventually just have to open up anyway. Because at some point, you're going to realize the cure might not be here. You already have the WHO talking about, hey, there might be nothing. And if think about it, if there's nothing, and then you've destroyed the whole economy, and then at the end of the day, there's going to be some people that are going to die. Not everyone is going to die. There's not like the Black Death and the contagion, the end of the world that people are talking about. It is bad. Don't get me wrong. Don't downplay it. It's really, really bad. A lot of people are losing their lives because of it. But it's not as extreme as some people would like to. Okay, it is actually. It's quite extreme, but it's not as extreme as some people would like to portray it as, like everybody's going to die because of it. And I look at it and I say, so what is then the solution? Is the solution to then lock? If you don't know, like, and this is the thing that I'm asking these guys that are attacking Mr. Steinheissen to think about and say, listen, if this thing is forever, as we know it right now, there's no cure, okay? And it's possible they'll never find a cure. If they do find a cure, it might be 2 years from now, because they still need to test it, right? Unless you're going to try the Madagascar stuff, but it's not been tested yet. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But for the most part, you might not have a cure for the next 2 years. Worst case scenario, forever and ever, amen. And if so when you're seeing like people advocating for these things that the governments of the world are doing, advocating for governments to take people's rights away, to lock people in their houses, to tell people to social distance and not talk to each other, I saw some story today that some guy was arrested for walking on the beach. My mom was telling me that back home in SD, they were telling her that she should not wear, if she's not wearing a mask, she can't go to the store and buy a mask, which is mind blowing. But she was telling me that they were telling her she can't go buy a mask and all these other things. And I was thinking about it, and I was saying, if you are taking these decisions as government, like, you are going to take them until when? This is the major. I think the major thing that is sitting with me is like, until when? Because to say that until there's a cure is not a strategy, because you don't know whether there's a cure. We still have HIV and AIDS, right? How many years has it been? So if coronavirus, I messed up. Why did I call it? Anyway, why did I call it? Anyway, if cocoa is a long-term thing, Okay, let's hope you do. Don't mess up with that. Like, if cocoa is a long-term thing, the question is for how long? For how long are you going to just shut this whole thing? You want to shut this whole thing down and say that and say that people must stay home. So this is why I say the strategy that a lot of the guys are going with, the people that are coming out and saying open up the economy, is actually the path of least damage. And it's the path of least damage because, number one, when you're talking about the economy, why I say that people are going to die, right? And this is founded on what a lot of economists are saying and what is widely understood in economics. The moment you stop working, obviously the GDP of the country is going to drop. And if the GDP of the country is going to drop, automatically the life expectancy of the people of that country is also going to drop. And if the life expectancy of those people is also dropping, just suppose that with the fact that if you're talking about, for example, South Africa or a lot of the countries in the SADC region, they're talking about people with an average age of between 20 and 30 years old. And if you look at that life expectancy, and then you say, I mean, you look at those people, and then you say, what happens when the GDP per capita of that country drops? It means their life expectancy also drops. And you just oppose it to the people that are going to die from coronavirus. That's why I'm saying this thing is a comparison. Instead of we're saving lives and and you guys want to kill people, this is literally both sides were killing people to an extent, but which is the part that's going to kill the least people? Now, if you're talking about the life expectancy of those people dropping, you're talking about the life expectancy of people that are 27 years old who have a whole lifetime to live. So they have a whole lifetime to live, like they might live till 80. Let's say they live till 80, right? And you're just supposing it with somebody, because the prime target of the people that coronavirus is actually targeting, apart from people with pre-existing conditions, right? For the most part, is old people. For the most part, the people that coronavirus is actually dealing with is old people, and that or that are passing away from it is old people. Now, people over the age of 70. How many years do those people have to live? They have 30 years. So you're cutting out the life expectancy of somebody that has close to 50 years to live for somebody that maybe has 15, maybe has 100, has 30 years to live. And I'm not saying that those people should die. So I'm saying the best strategy for this is to actually start thinking about it as a long-term thing. And this is why I'm saying that guys like this guy, Steinheissen, in the end, are actually going to come out being the smart guys. And everybody else that keeps fighting them is going to come out with egg face on their heads, unless, of course, especially the government, because I'm seeing a lot of governments and a lot of politicians are trying to tout this as some type of solution that, oh, we have the least number of deaths. I'm like, okay, do we have a cure now? We have the least number of, do we have a cure now? Okay, if you're going to keep fighting to have the least number of people dying from it, and you don't have a cure yet, it's either you're going to keep destroying the economy, right, which eventually will result in people starving, because without economic activity, guys, and this is another issue that I'm seeing, people seem not to understand how an economy works. Okay, I see people talking about, especially and this is my third point and my final point, and it's the fact that this thing is not about race. I'm seeing a lot of people turning this into a race issue where they say, well, it's because the white businesses are suffering. And since the white businesses are suffering, that's the reason. That's the reason that people are fighting and want the economy to open up. It's the white. Listen, whether it's a white business, whether it's a black business, at the end of the day, okay, whether it's a white business or a black business, at the end of the day, these things are interconnected. Okay, these things are interconnected. If it's a white-owned business, because a business doesn't necessarily have a race, but let's say it's a white-owned business. If it's a white-owned business, that white-owned business probably, just if you look at a country like South Africa, for example, probably that white-owned business employs a bunch of black people, right? Employs 50 black people. Those 50 black people, if they lose their jobs, okay, that's 50 families that have lost an income. That income that those 50 families would have probably been spent on a black business, okay? So that black business has also lost some customers in the process. So if you kill one business, it's not like you're leaving the other not to survive. You're killing everything, okay? You kill one, you kill all. This is how economies work. So I look at it and I say, I think the people, like I said, that are looking at cocoa and are looking at it as a short-term thing, and are looking at cocoa as, listen, we can solve this. We should just stay home, and people must just stay home, and staying home is saving lives. And I haven't heard a straight answer coming from people that says, until when? Okay, because staying home is not a strategy. Okay, it's not a strategy. It's really not a strategy. You're going to stay home until when? When you're already hearing doctors telling you we might not find a cure. Finding a cure for this thing is very, very complicated. Doctors are telling you this. Finding a cure for this thing, very complicated. And they're telling you, well, we might never find a cure. We might find a cure in 2 years. We might find a cure in 3 years. Can't keep people in the house for 3 years. So I'm just saying to my people, right, especially the guys that claim to speak for Black people and stuff, like, I'm just saying, as a Black guy, and to you, my fellow Black Africans, it's very important that we think about this as a long-term problem. And if it's a long-term problem, it's better for people to start adapting now to living with coronavirus, right, or with cocoa around us, and learning to adapt and survive, right? Learning to adapt and survive, because the longer you sit there and you say, well, let people just stay home, and it turns out, because this is a possibility, from what we know now, there might be no cure, right? And the cure might come in 2 years, might come in 5 years. I mean, some doctors are saying a proper estimate is 4 to 5 years. So if it might come in 5 years, is it better to tank the economy, right? Which might potentially take generations to fix, right? Because a lot of people think it takes a short period of time. It might take 10 years to fix. Okay, South Africa still hasn't recovered right now from, in fact, a lot of the SADC countries, South Africa and the interconnected countries, Swaziland, Lesotho, still haven't recovered from the financial crisis of 2007. South Africa has failed to achieve a 1% growth rate, 1% growth, 1% growth in the past 2 years, even 1%. It was 0.8%. I think it was 0.6%, and now it's 0.2%, and now it's a recession. So you think about how long that problem took to even try and fix, and then you think about this problem, and you say, is it worth destroying the whole economy, cutting people's life expectancy short, right? Potentially having people committing suicide, potentially having people dying, and all these other things, and obviously the crime rate going up, for a solution that is like hope. And I'm not against hope, but for a solution that is, we're hopeful that there's going to be a cure. We're hopeful that there's going to be a cure. Yes, I'm also hopeful. But over time, I have to sit down and actually start to think about it and say, perhaps this thing might be the next HIV and AIDS. We might have to live with it. And if we have to live with it, then is it not better to just start letting people to start adapting to the situation, to say, hey, you need to adapt to the fact that we're living with this thing. You need to find ways to socially distance when you go to work. You need to find ways to innovative ways on how to survive, in this particular system that we're now living in, where, there are potentially old people who are vulnerable to this virus and could potentially die from it, and that you need to protect. And these are the ways that maybe as governments we have come up with, where you guys, if you follow these laws, you'll protect the most vulnerable amongst us, while at the same time making sure that we don't destroy the economy for something that might be here forever. Because I'm even looking at some of these laws. Now, I know some of you, are not in SA. I'm in SA right now. So I'm looking at the laws that are coming up in South Africa right now, and I'm saying to myself, there's a law right now that says you can't buy a T-shirt unless the T-shirt is advertised as an undergarment. So how long are you going to have, if cocoa is forever? Anyway, the algorithm is probably going to deal with me for that. If cocoa is forever, right? If cocoa is forever, how long are you going to have that law in place? Like, it literally makes no sense. So this is why I'm saying, for the people that are saying that guys like Mr. Steinheissen and all these other guys are wrong, in the end, I believe we're all going to end up in his position. In the end, you, me, everybody, we end up in his position. And therefore, I think it's then a better idea. To start getting people to adapt to the situation, protect the most vulnerable, okay? Old people, get old people away, because for the most part, if you're talking about people under the age of 30, it's not really affecting them that much. And the average age in Southern Africa, in South Africa specifically, is 27, I think. And that being the case, people under the age of 30, this thing is mostly like flu to them. A lot of them catch it and they don't even show symptoms. For those that do, for those that have HIV and AIDS, at first that was a scare, right? Everybody said people that are with HIV and AIDS are more in danger, but it turns out if they're taking their ARVs, they're actually not as in danger, right? It's turning out now that they are not as in danger, or at least these are the first preliminary studies that are finding that in Spain, that, listen, people with HIV and AIDS, so long as they're taking their ARVs, are not going to get affected negatively. And so is it not then, and then there's diabetics and people with other pre-existing conditions and people that are overweight. Those are the people that are really in danger. And the issue then is, shouldn't we find a way to then protect these people and then adapt to the reality of the situation and start sort of getting people conditioned to the fact that we're going to have to live with this, but we might have to live with this for a long time, because that's how I view it. I view it as this is a long-term thing. And in the end, guys like the EFF with Julius Malema saying don't open anything, with what the ANC has been saying with this, and all these other governments around the world, with what we're seeing in the United States, what we're seeing in other countries, all these guys, I think all of them end up with egg face, because at the end of the day, I think we're going to need to adapt, and we need to start looking at the situation and not as person is, if you open up, you're killing people. If you don't open up, you're protecting people. You need to start thinking of it as, if either way, is what in economics is known as game theory, yeah? Where every option is bad, but how do I mitigate the risks to try and make sure that all this, even though both situations are bad, there's the least damage that can be done to the people in the society. Anyway, those are my thoughts about that. It's really been bothering me. It's really been close to my heart. I want to hear your opinions, about this whole cocoa thing. And I want to hear what you think about do you think lockdown is actually a strategy? Like I said on the video, I don't think lockdown is a strategy. I think it's literally hopeful and wishful thinking. But you're going to lock down until when? So y'all guys leave me your comments. Let me know what you think about this. I really want to know if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm correct, and who do you guys think are the people that are taking the right position on this? Is it the guys that are saying let's just stay home and be hopeful? Do you guys think it's a race thing? I think the whole race argument for me is a problem. I mean, I keep looking at the people that are trying to make this a race argument, and I really get annoyed because I'm thinking about it and I'm saying, if people lose jobs, Black people suffer. If people don't go back to work, Black people suffer, white people suffer, everybody suffers. And you know who's not suffering? The guy that everybody wants to target, guys like Johan Rupert. These guys' stocks are going up. If you're talking about guys like in the States, Jeff Bezos, stock is going up. So a lot of rich people are not even getting affected. To them, this is a good thing. They're enjoying it. So the people that really suffer is everybody else on the ground. But y'all leave me your comments. Definitely subscribe. Peace.